All right. Thanks everybody for coming. I am Steve Barkley from Canadian Assistive Technologies, and joining me today is Rob Hilkes from Sight Enhancement Systems in Ottawa. Um, Rob and his company make a fabulous line of calculators, and I've always thought that one of the big stumbling points for them being adopted is that people aren't necessarily aware of how to use them to their best advantage. So I've invited Rob here today to educate us all on how they work and uh, what differences are between the various models of calculators they manufacture. So with that in mind, I am going to step out of the way and hand it over to Rob to show us his fabulous stuff. Go ahead, Rob.
Great. So thank just everyone can hear me okay. Get a look at my face because I'm switching my camera to a down-looking camera that's on my desk so that we can all see what we're talking about. So this is the Psi Plus. This actual model is called the Psi Plus 3500, which is one of the types of talking, graphing, well, scientific calculators for people with vision that Sight Enhancement makes. This one, the 35, this 5, the all bells and whistles version. This one actually output in several languages, and it also graphs. There are two other models that are a little less rich. Going just one down from that is the Psi Plus 3300, and that's a model that does everything that the Psi Plus 3500 does except graphing. So it'll do the functions that I'll show you in a moment, but it won't do the graphing. And then the simplest model is the Psi Plus 3200, which does not do the analysis of functions. So it doesn't have that feature, and it doesn't have speech output. So it doesn't have that audio capability. So before I get into before I turn the calculator on, I guess I'd like to start by first just walking through very quickly the manual. So with each of these calculators comes a nice high quality and large print manual that kind of explains all of the basics of the calculator, including, various aspects of, I'll use my pen here to point, various aspects of what you see in the display and what those symbols all mean. Um, uh, an explanation about order of operations for those of you who are not math teachers. So, you've heard of BEDMAS, which means brackets, exponents, divide, multiply, addition, subtraction. That's what we do when you enter an equation. A little explanation about soft keys. What these are, as you'll see, these are keys that change their function depending on the circumstance, and we'll get into that a little bit more as we go. And there's lots of stuff in here about how to work with previous results and how to navigate the screen and so forth. Implied operators is we've tried to make life simple by here's a good example. So you can see 2 open bracket 3 plus 1 close bracket is the same as saying 2 times open bracket 3 plus 1 close bracket, but you don't have to enter that multiplication symbol. So there's a couple of examples where the calculator will do friendly things like that. As I mentioned, it has a speech output. The Psi Plus 3300 and 3500 come with an earbud, a pair of earbuds that you plug into this little audio jack at the side. Now today, I've just plugged in a set of PC speakers so you can hear what we're doing. But normally in a classroom, the student would use earbuds because they don't want to disturb all of the other students who are busily doing their work. And the speech output is available, as I'll show you, in English, French, and Spanish. We also actually have an Arabic version too, if you need that, and that's a special order. So tell Steve that's what you want, and he can contact us, and we'll put that together. there are a number of screens that that talk about different settings that you can do in the calculator, like what kind of format numbers appear in, whether it's standard, fixed notation, scientific notation, or engineering notation. I'll show you what that means. Different color schemes, kind of like your tabletop um, um, video magnifiers, black on white, blue on yellow, yellow on black, all that kind of stuff. Um, Different highlight colors that you can choose. These are just sort of the high-end user preferences that the user would put in, or you as a teacher when you set this thing up, sort of set their preferences for how they want to use it. And these settings, once you've set them, they stay when the calculator's turned off. The next time you turn it on, it remembers all of that. The display, which you'll see is a nice big bright display, has 4 different backlight levels. So think of that as the intensity, I guess, or the brightness of the display. Today we'll be using the lowest level because if I turn that up, the little desktop webcam that I have here just saturates. It can't stand how bright the calculator is, so it doesn't make for very good images on Zoom. So we'll keep it on 1 today. And then, as I said, English, French, Spanish, and you can set the volume level on the earbuds because not all earbuds have a volume control in the wire. And lastly, the last setup screen is the angle preference. So almost everybody chooses degrees, but if you're a scientist or an engineer, you would know what radians and gradians are. Those are different ways of indicating angles. And then the calculator manual starts to get into, key by key, we explain what that key does for every key on the keypad. And I won't suffer you through all of that because we'll show we'll do some examples as we go. So, your mathematical functions, trigonometry, converting angles back and forth between degrees, minutes, seconds, and decimal degrees. Converting coordinates between polar coordinates, that's like XY coordinates versus, rectangular coordinates, which is XY, versus polar coordinates, which is I don't know what that is, tau, I think. Basically, the distance from the origin and the angle. And working with fractions, you can enter fractions and convert back and forth between fractions and decimals. And then there's memory operations where you can store things in memory and add to the contents of the memory and so forth. Statistical operations where you can enter a number of entries into a statistical array, and the calculator will calculate things like the average and the standard deviation and variances and so forth. And then we'll spend some time today going through using the calculator to evaluate mathematical functions, because that sort of shows a lot of what the calculator is capable of. And we'll walk through some of the examples. I would encourage any teacher of the visually impaired when they purchase this for a student, it's really good to spend an hour or 2 when you get it, just walking through some of these examples as they're laid out in the manual and just getting familiar with how the calculator works. So you'll recall from high school algebra, this is one of the basic forms of a mathematical function where you have a function y expressed as, a function y which is expressed as a bunch of constants and the value x. So a, b, and c are constants, and x is your x-axis variable. So ax squared plus bx plus c, for example, is a very common high school algebra form of an algebraic equation, and we can do that stuff, and I'll show you that. And then there's a section on how to do graphing, and we'll walk through that as well. And yeah, lots of rich capability in terms of graphing, and then troubleshooting and warranties and all that legalese mumbo jumbo at the back. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, and you'll hear a beep from the speakers here. And what you can see right away is the calculator display. And I'll just walk you through some of that. So Now, that's going to be annoying, so I'm going to turn the speaker off. I just proved to you that there's a speaker. But we'd like to not have that interrupt our webinar so much.
Rob, the speaker was almost impossible to hear.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's fairly loud and not directly looking at the microphone. Oh yeah, because I'm wearing my headset, so I'm not sure if you can. Color, red, green. Yeah. Anyway, I can hear it loud and clear. I guess you'll have to trust me. I just wanted to show you the colors. So this is what I mean by soft keys. First of all, you see this A, B, C, D along the top of the keyboard here. That corresponds to, depending on on what the calculator is doing at the time, you'll see things in the display right here in these 4 boxes. And so when I'm in this settings mode, which is the little gear key on the calculator, I go in and out of settings by pushing that gear key. And then there are the 5 setting screens that I showed you in the manual, which are 1, the number format, 2, the backlight strength, and so forth. Colors, highlight colors, audio settings. I guess there are 6 because of the angle. So just going back to the colors screen, you can see this doesn't actually show up very well on the webcam, but these are the different color schemes that you can have. And I think on the webcam, I actually decided black on white is the most crisp one in terms of how this webcam works. So I guess, the other thing I'd like to show you, and then we'll get into plotting a function, and then you can see how that would work. This button here, which has the little picture of a speaking person, if I push that down and hold it, it'll enter learning mode. And what learning mode is the calculator actually does nothing in this mode other than, here, I'll turn the sound back on, other than tell you what each of the keys are. So, and so on. And if some of these keys have 2 functions, as you can see, there's a white symbol on the bottom and a yellow symbol on the top. So this key is the percentage key, and it's also pi. So if I hit this key, it'll say %. And if I hit the second button, which is this top yellow thing, and then I hit that key, it will say pi, and so on. So we find this mode very useful for people who have exceptionally low vision. They can spend a while just playing around with the keys. The calculator's not doing anything. You're not going to cause any errors or anything like that. All you're doing is navigating where the keys are and trying to commit as much of that to memory as you can. And visually impaired people have incredible memories. I never cease to be impressed. Much better than mine. So there's that capability. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit that speech key again and hold it down for 5 seconds and make it back into a normal calculator. Okay, so it just said learning mode off, and we'll turn the sound off. I'm going to turn to the section in the manual on working with functions and enter a function. So in the manual, it talks about, let me just find that page. In the manual, it talks about this function format that I talked about before. I mean, you can enter any format you want, but we will enter this one because it's a very common algebra format. The way I do that is by pressing this F of X key down here. F of X is a well-known mathematical symbol that says a function of X. So Y is a function of X. And then I get this screen here. A couple things to notice. Here it says Y equals ... And it says ... because we haven't defined the function yet. So you'll see that we'll complete that equation in a second. The other thing is it says up here f1 of x. You can actually enter two different functions in the calculator. So in this case, we're entering the first function, and you could plot two different functions at the same time to show, for example, a straight line and a parabola on the same plot. So right now, I'm just going to enter that equation that we talked about earlier. And the way I do that is using these soft keys. So you can see the soft keys right now say A, B, C, and X, which are our three constants and the X value. If I push that FFX key again, the soft keys change to A equals, B equals, C equals, X equals. This is where I can define those values. And if I push that FFX key a third time, here's where I swap between F1 and F2. So if I push that A, you'll see this now changes to F2 up here. And that green color doesn't show up very well on the zoom camera, but I can see it well here. And I change it back to F1. And this is where I can clear the function. No need to do that because we haven't got a function in there yet. And if I hit the y equals, it's when that's how I start to define my function. And then it just cycles back. If I keep hitting this f of x key, it just keeps cycling through those so-called soft keys. So let's go ahead and enter the function y equals, remember what it was? It was ax squared. So here's the x squared key down here, plus bx plus c. And then I hit enter, the red key. So this reverse arrow, that's a Hewlett-Packard nomenclature. It's the same as equals, basically, on any calculator. And now you can see the function has been placed here on this top line, and you can see what it is. So I can't plot that yet because I don't know what the values of A, B, and C are. I need to enter that. So I can go ahead and hit this f of x key again, and I can define A. Let's say A is 3. And let's say B is 2. And C is, let's say, 45. Because I think we're going to do a sine function and see what that does. No, you know what? I'm going to change that. That's too complicated for now. So if I want to change something, I just hit the back space, which is this bottom right key, and I can edit that. I can make it anything I want and backspace, and I'll make it -1. So I can enter -1 by saying -1, or I can say 1 and then hit this change sign key, the plus minus. Okay, and then enter. So now you have an equation that's y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and your values of a, b, and c, oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Your values of a, b, and c are, here we go. What did I say? A was 3, B was 2, and C is -1. I think I already did all this. There we go. So now, what if I press in a value of x and I say x equals 1? This will tell me what y is when I have the values of a, b, and c that I entered and at the value of x equals 1. And then the way I do that is I go like this. Pardon me. Oh, that wrong one. It's been a while.
You're doing better than I would have.
Well, I'm confused because I'm trying to figure out what y is. That's funny. Now I'm embarrassed. Y Oh, there it is. I beg your pardon. So I hit y equals and I hit the enter key. So y equals 4. So x was 1. So 3 times 1 is 3. Squared is 9. Plus, what was b? Negative 2. Or sorry, b was 2. So 2 times 1 is 2. So that's 11. And then c was minus 1. So I must have entered something wrong, because that's not what I thought. That's not what I expected. Let's do this again. I apologize, people. We'll do this one more time. A equals 3, B equals 2, and C equals negative 1. And X, did I say X equals 1? Okay. Y equals 4. So 3 times, oh, I beg your pardon, 1 squared is 1. So 3 times 1 is 3, plus B was 2. 2 times 1 is 2. So 3 plus 2 is 5. And then C is negative 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. Phew, I was worried that it was giving me a wrong result there, which would have surprised me. Okay, now, what does this look like on a graph? If I just hit this key here that looks suspiciously like a graph, you'll see this plot. Here's the parabola of y equals ax squared plus bx plus c for the values of a, b, c that I entered. And you can see that the x-axis and y-axis have tick marks at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Now, I am able to play around in the graphing setting with just the same way that I did with the settings key earlier. With the graphing key, I can play around with different screens to define what my minimum and maximum values are on the y and x axis. Whether I want dots on this like a grid pattern on the screen. Here's the minimum and maximum values for the x-axis. What I was showing earlier was what each tick mark is worth. So in this case, it defaults. Each tick mark has a value of 1. And the axes, as you saw from the graph, start and stop at plus and minus 10. And is there another screen? Oh, yeah. 17 by 10 is just it's the aspect ratio of this display. So it's putting 17 tick marks across the left, right, and 10 tick marks up, down. And then these are other modes where I can tell it to make a square grid, or I can tell it to make a grid that's more amenable to trigonometry, where the x-axis is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's more like degrees, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, and so forth. When I'm plotting things like sine waves and stuff like that. I don't think there's a fifth screen. Oh, yes, there is. Oh, yes. So this last screen lets me solve the equation. So if I go back to the graph, which is here, you can see that this graph crosses the x-axis 2 times. Once here at negative 1, I just happen to know it's negative 1, and the other time here at whatever value that is. If I then go back to here and I type in values of a and b that are close to these values. So let's type in a value of a that's a little bit less than negative 1 and a value of b that's a little bit more than negative 1. It's basically telling the calculator, I want you to tell me where the zero crossing is for the curve close to those values. So if I enter a of 1.1 negative, oops, I beg your pardon, 1.1 negative, and a b of 0.9 negative, and then I hit this 0 key, it tells me the value of x crossing the y-axis in that area that you defined here is negative 1. So again, if I go back to the graph, what I just did is told the calculator to tell me where does this curve cross the x-axis. In other words, y equals 0. And that's something that algebra students, math students in senior years in high school will find very, very useful, because they're often asked, okay, find the zeros of a curve or an equation. And that's what that function's all about. If I want to clear the function, I just hit this f of x key again and hit clear. And then I'm back to the beginning. If I hit graph, it shows nothing because there's no function in there. And then if I want to get out of this whole function operation, I just hit function again and I'm back. Oh, I beg your pardon. I hit second function and then I'm back to being a normal calculator. So 45 times 3 is 135 and so forth. A couple of very simple things, and then I'll open up for questions from people. Something that I can do with this calculator, you'll notice that unlike a lot of calculators, it allows me to enter an equation as opposed to giving me, most calculators, as you enter 3 plus 3, the display will say 9, and then you say minus 1, it'll say 8, and times 3, it says 24. But we can go 3 times 3 plus 1 divided by 2 and enter that. It takes everything that you're entering as an equation until you hit the red enter button. So this is going to be, remember, order of operations. This will be multiplication and division first. So 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 divided by 2. What's 1 divided by 2 is a half. So this is going to be 9.5. Thank goodness I still know my math. And you can get fancy here. You can go, for example, 3 open brackets sine of 90 degrees, close brackets, times 2, close bracket, plus 1, whatever. And it enters, it finally solves that equation. Now, what I was going to show you also is if I want to go back and grab the results of something that I did, which is, you'll see the results always are in these top 3 lines, and the top line just gets pushed off the top of the screen as you enter a new entry. So the 135 is going to go zipping off the top, never to be seen again. As soon as I hit enter, it puts 56 there and pushes everything up. But I can go back and look at a previous result and incorporate it into what I'm doing. So now what if I just did this thing and it resulted in a number of 56. And now I want to do something with that 56. I want to multiply it by 5. Okay, I can go 5 times and then simply use the up arrow here to go back and pick one of these previous results. And I'm going to pick 56 and hit enter. And it takes that value and puts it down here. And now when I enter that, it's going to say 5 times 56 is 280 and so forth. So it's always handy to have these sort of historical results in the display that you can go back and grab whenever you want to. That might be it. I mean, we could go for days with different kinds of examples of mathematical functions and so forth, but I think maybe if you have questions, I can walk through some examples specific to whatever it is that you're interested in. It does a lot.
Okay, folks, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions if you want to.
You can, I turned the speaker back on.
Menu 3, menu 4, highlight color red, menu 5, audio English.
Just to show you the different languages, because it's fun. So now, I'm not sure how well you can hear that. I think if I take my headpiece off, that might help. MacBook. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do that. Leave well enough alone. Oh, there it is.
Entrée 280.
Does that sound better?
Yeah, that sounds a lot better.
Okay, yeah, that was, so I'm going to take my headpiece off. And I guess I should put it back into English. Oh, and here's
Menú 5. Audio español. Volumen 3.
our Spanish friend. So I'll go back to English.
Menu 5. Audio English. Volume 3.
Anyone? Any questions?
I have one, Rob. This is Rohit. I'm the equipment technician with Alberta Education. We have more than 10 calculators in our inventory. Recently, I came across one problem, just like the calculator, the voice stops, so there's no voice, and the keys, all the keys, sometimes they froze. So what I did was I was able to revive it. I had to reset it, but it happened on 3 units. And
What kind of calculator is it, Rohit? Is it one
uh,
of these?
yeah, exact same one, 3500.
Oh, that's very strange.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I'm curious because we bought all 10 uh, in the same batch, and this problem happened recently, just like within a few days gap. So I don't know what it was, maybe a hardware reset that kind of make it going for now. But yeah, I just wanted to share if you ever experienced any problem like this or
No, that's very interesting. Now, and so when you say reset, you mean you did the with a paper clip in the little hole in the
yeah.
yeah. So
It,
I'll just show that to people for their benefit. If you ever really need to, oh, and this calculator, of course, has all kinds of nasty notes and stuff on the bottom. This is my demo calculator. Um, but here on the bottom, you can see a little, sorry, there, a little tiny hole. Maybe you can't even see it in the camera. There you go. Which is just big enough to put a paper clip into. And that does a complete reset of the calculator if it ever gets into any kind of really weird state. But I don't know why your calculator would do that. And have they been performing properly since then?
yes, one user they complained about some erratic results. So I had them do the reset, and ever since they didn't complain.
Hmm.
But after that I did receive two more calls in which the voice stops all of a sudden. There's no voice. So
And then
it
and
must have,
resetting it fixed that.
that's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's very strange.
So I had
Um,
instances out of we have 11 calculators in total.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, so one of the things to watch is to make sure that they're well charged. I have seen scenarios now. It's very hard to repeat these kind of experiments, but I have on okay, out of the thousands that we've built, I've seen a couple of times a calculator that's misbehaving and the battery happens to be very, very low.
Mhm.
Always make sure, I mean, in my case, it's charging. So that's why you show this little plug icon. But this should be, if it's only showing one bar, plug it in because that might maybe cause, I'm thinking like an electrical engineer now, it might cause some register to empty out or something like that if the voltages inside are too low. But it shouldn't be a problem. I'm glad you found the reset, and I'm glad the problem's gone away, but keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd like to know.
Great thing. Well,
My name's Kim. I'm at the National Research Council, and I had put this in the chat, but I also just wanted to say that I personally I don't need this kind of for my work, but I am certain that we have researchers who, if they're not aware of this, definitely. So I just want to thank you for presenting this to us today.
Kim, I actually think this is going back. It might be a different model from years ago, but I actually think we have people at NRC here in Ottawa who use this, but that's really testing my memory.
Well, I'll be talking about it
So,
whenever I speak with somebody that, any of our researchers at the research. And it
are you
comes
here?
up.
Are you here in Ottawa?
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I don't, rarely do I meet them in person. It's usually through Teams.
Right. Something I was going to mention at the very start of the call, and I failed to, is this is a calculator for people with low vision, right? Um,
Mhm.
the APH, the American Printing House for the Blind, makes a very good calculator. It's called the Orion, and it's basically a TI. What is it? There's one in my drawer here. TI 84, that's been modified to have a speech output. Um, it's a great calculator for people who are totally blind, um, because of the speech output. But it's a horrible calculator for low vision because it's got a tiny, tiny display and little microscopic keys. Um, Blind people, totally blind people, do very, very well with it. The speech output is great. But if people have low vision, they want to use as much of their vision as they have. And that's why we've made this with, you can see it's got huge keys and a huge display and so forth. And it's a very different demographic in terms of the calculator that's best for them, whether it's a low vision calculator or a calculator for the blind. And we don't make calculators for the blind. I'm very happy when people buy the APH. I think it's called Orion. Maybe you even have that, Steve. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe
But
that's
that's
the
that's for
one
that's
that's
for
made by
blind.
Orbit Research, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
we carry that one as well.
It's a great calculator, but not for low vision, obviously.
Well, I actually have a lot of vision impairments and problems, and I have big everything that I can find. So I was really excited by that. And I have low vision, low contrast. I don't see in 3D, blah, blah, blah. And I was so excited to see those big keys.
Good. Do you know, there's a gentleman, I don't know if it's been years since I've spoken with him, but he worked in Environment Canada in the accommodation department there, and he had a whole lab set up in one of the buildings at Thrasher La Chaudière in Gatineau, that had all kinds of equipment for people who are blind or
Well,
visually impaired.
have that may have been what we call triple ACT, the assistive adaptive, blah blah blah. It's a federal department, and they were at that location for a while,
Yeah.
and they basically service the entire federal body, I guess, all employees, and they
Mhm.
have exactly that. They've just moved downtown. I think it's on Laurier. I don't know, can't be certain. I've
Okay,
been
so you're aware.
and
Yeah.
so I will also make sure that they know about this.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure I actually reached out to him ever. Um, I made contact in the context of another company that I worked with. Well, and I still do on a sort of part-time basis. It was a head-worn display device for people with low vision. Um, yeah. Anyway, any other questions on, we're getting sidetracked. If there's any other questions on the Sci Plus calculators, I'd love to field those.
All right, I'm going to assume that everybody is happy and has had all their questions answered.
Great.
All right. Well, Rob, thank you very much. That was a great overview of the calculator, and you only threw me back to flashbacks of high school a little bit. Threw me right back to failing Algebra 11 and all the anxiety that came with that. So thanks for that.
I'm sorry to drag that up. Yeah. Back to therapy for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else, I'm gonna call it. Thanks once again.
Thanks for putting this together, Steve.
All right, no worries. And I will be uh, posting the recording to our YouTube channel, and Rob, I'll send you a copy of that as well.
Oh, great. I'd appreciate that.
All righty.
Enjoy your day.
Thanks. Y'all take care.